Alright, good afternoon. The move I'm going to be teaching you today is extended rectangular formation. This is the formation which is used by the Army to conduct physical training exercises and physical training activities. It's also the formation that is used by Civil Air Patrol primarily to do PT as well. So we will be going off of the Army Field Manual 7-22, so FM 7-22. Those are the commands that we will be going off of, and we're going to be doing some slight variations to it because it's basically just a more simplified version of the commands and of the entire movements. The entire purpose is just to get everybody spaced out and to get the entirety of the flight for our sake. While the Army words as platoon, of course we're going to be using Air Force terms, so flight, squadron, and so on and so forth. So it is the purpose to get the flight oriented and proper space enough to give each individual proper space to do exercises, stretches, calisthenics, etc. So I will demonstrate from the perspective of every single element, at least in the perspective of each element as I say goes. So we will prepare. So the command we should start with prepare for PT, and the flight sergeant will begin with extended rectangular formation as follows. Extend to left, hunch! So that is for all elements, extend to left. So from the furthest right file or furthest right flank will not move or will not double time to a proper position. Each other person who is not a part of the furthest right flank, or in this case when we are in line, the element leaders, so anybody who's not the element leaders, they will they will begin the extended left march by going to double time, in place double time, and moving accordingly at this double arm interval. So of course this is a little bit different from the Army variation, which says that upon hearing the command of extend to the left march, they turn left and then start to double time forward into a proper position. For our sake, we're just going to be doing it double time, in place double time with double arm interval. That way we don't have to do a turn and we don't have to guesstimate on exactly where you're going. That way it makes it a lot simpler for every person. So at this point, after we go to extend the left march, the command to bring you downwards upon your place. Once you reach your place at your double arm interval, you halt, and then the flight sergeant will command arms downward move. So again, from the beginning. Extend to left, hunch. Arms downward, move. So you'll move your arms smartly down to your sides. You will not slap them upon hearing the command, and then the flight sergeant will command left face. Left, haste. And then you'll be commanded to do extend to the left, march again. However, you will not move to the right. This is a common mistake where the furthest right flank or the furthest right column will start moving to the right. The furthest right column and furthest right flank, they will stay in place. So this doesn't mean that, like say for example, I am the first element and we have now faced inverted in column to do extend to left march. I will not be moving to the right because the rest of the flight will be moving off of me to get their dress cover, etc. They'll be moving off to get their appropriate spacing as needed with extended left march. So we will stay in place. So we will not go into a double time and immediate halt. We'll just stay halted and put our arms up at double arm interval to make sure that they can get their spacing from where we are. So again, left, haste, extend left, punch. So that is the perspective of the first element. So now for the rest of the elements, so say for example second, third, fourth, whatever. Again, so they will be going into the same double time, in place double time, in order to get their proper spacing away from the first element. So I'll demonstrate. So from the perspective of the second element. Extend the left, hunch. Arms downward, hoo. So at that point, when we are now face down, and we have properly attained our spacing and our dress and cover for the rest of the flight, that way we have proper spacing now throughout the entire flight, where we have ample room to do exercises, for example, like a jumping jack, push-ups, etc. So now we were faced. The flight sergeant will call us back into line formation, proper line formation, for the next piece. Right, face. So after right face, the flight sergeant will call. The flight sergeant will call from front to rear, count off. So this is when each element, not each individual, so each element will call their respective numbers as per their element. So for example, if I'm the first element leader, or I'm the first element member, first element member, we will all in synchronization say 1. But you will do it in this manner. You will get attention, you will look over your right shoulder, and you sound off 1. And then if the second element, you'll sound off 2, 3, for third element, and then the fourth element will not look over their shoulder because there's nobody behind them, and they will just sound off 4 from the rear. Okay, it will look like this. From front to rear, count off 1, 2, 3, 4. So each sequential, and you need, it is all in time at the exact same time for each element, so them saying it together. So it isn't individuals saying the numbers. So it isn't, for example, the guide or whoever it is all the way down each line. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's not counting off. We're not counting off. We're counting off each element. That way we can designate the odd from the even elements, because that's going to be an essential part in extended rectangular formation right after. So after each element has conducted 1, 2, 3, 4, for sounding off each of their elements, the flight sergeant will now command even number to the left, uncover. So that is the command to get every single even numbered element off to sidestep to the side. That way they're in between the gaps that are left by the odd elements. So say, for example, the first and third element, they will not move because they aren't an even element. That's why the flight sergeant's command even number to the left, uncover. And yes, that is how it is worded in the FM 7-22. So, for example, I am the second element leader or second element member. Even number to the left, uncover. So I should be in between the space between members of the first element. So if I just uncovered, there should be 2 members in front of me who are in between the gap. I should be in between the gap made by these 2 members here. But we should still be a double arm interval, so we shouldn't crunch up. It should be a big step to get in between that space between the members. So it's not like we're doing a small side step uncovering. It needs to be the same double arm interval. That way we have enough ample space for you to do your exercises. And that goes for the second and fourth element, because they're the even numbered elements. Again, first and third, you do not move. So here's how it looks like again. Even numbers, even number to the left, uncover. It's a simple step. And that is how we get into extended rectangular formation. Are there any questions? Alright, now to get from extended rectangular formation back into regular formation, regular line formation, the command is assemble to the right, arch. So assemble to the right arch is basically just telling you to move everybody to the right back to the original positions. Now how the Army FM 7-22 outlines this is that it says for all soldiers, or in this case all cadets for us, all cadets to double time it to their original positions. So while some people teach it in the variation where they do small side steps, because it is PT and because we have high energy at this point, we are double timing back to our original positions. So let's say, for example, we are at extended rectangular formation, and the command is given: assemble to the right, arch. So double time to your original position, or whatever it may be. That was a little bit closer than it would really be, but because the camera's there, I had to move over a little bit closer than originally. But because we're in PT, we are double timing to our original positions to maintain that energy and to maintain the motivation that we have throughout the morning. Another variation that I forgot to mention before is with extend to the left march. There is a variation taught within civil air patrol where cadets will sound off ah throughout doing extended left march as they are double timing to their position. So for example, extend to left, march, ah, and so forth. And people teach it to where you do it even until you stop. People teach it to where you do it until you stop. For the sake of our maintaining a sense of continuity, we will maintain it as sounding off ah until you stop. And that is to maintain a good sense of motivation and overall energy throughout PT as we go through PT in the morning to wake yourselves up. So we will practice extended rectangular formation now, and I will offer feedback. Height, tension, height. Extend it left, arch. Stay in place. Arms downward. Hoo. Left. Haste. Extend the left. Arch. Arms downward. Hoo. Right. Haste. From front to rear. Count. Huff. Even number to left. Uncover. Assemble to the right. Arch. At ease. So that is the entirety of extended rectangular formation, both assembling and getting back into regular formation. First element, make sure that when we are doing extend to the left march while in inverted column formation, make sure that you are not moving. One of the members, Cadet Jenkins, you moved towards towards me outside. Remember that they are moving off of you to the left, not to the right, so you stay in place. We also need to make sure that we are counting off and sounding off loud for the rest of the elements to hear which element you are, because there may be people who are confused which element number they are, which there shouldn't be, but who never knows. Also make sure that if you're in the even numbered element, you move to the left. So first and third, you shouldn't be moving to the left. You're letting the second and fourth elements uncover, so they're in between the spaces so they can see, and that way they have more space that's not so crowded for each member in the flight. So are there any questions? All right, overall, it was a good attempt. We just make sure that we are getting the proper commands executed correctly. Otherwise, we have to waste time in PT to get people reassembled. Flight, tension, hut!